want to support the platform just in case anything like this happens again, you can do it by way of PayPal, Patreon, Cash App, and also by the Anchor. And you can also further support the platform by way of going to the Teespring store or the shoe store that is located in the comment section below.
Five exclusive. This month marks 2 years since Bexar County Sheriff's deputies shot and killed a 6-year-old boy during the pursuit of a woman wanted for fraud. And tonight, Cameron Prescott's father, Chris Prescott, is sharing what happened that day. It comes as the Prescott family plans to file a lawsuit against the county over Cameron's death. Eyewitness News reporter Mariah Medina has that story.
Days before Christmas in 2017, Bexar County Sheriff's deputies fired more than a dozen rounds in the Pecan Grove mobile home park, shooting and killing 6-year-old Cameron Prescott. Today I spoke with his father, who shared more about that tragic day.
He said, "Ouch, Daddy, ouch." And that was the last thing I heard from him.
It was the morning of December 21st, 2017. Christopher Prescott was at home with his son Cameron. The pair never suspecting their home in the Pecan Grove mobile home park in Schertz would become the center of a search for a fugitive named Amanda Jones.
There was a report of a stolen vehicle. The suspect was also known to have several outstanding felony warrants.
One deputy who first ran into Jones claimed she had a gun.
The suspect indicated to the deputy, "I have a weapon, I'm going to shoot you." And at that point, she actually brandished the weapon towards the deputy.
This prompted a multi-agency response, with Bexar County leading the way. Canines, deputies with long guns, handguns, all searching for Jones. She walked into Chris Prescott's trailer, trying to hide from the officers on her trail. Court documents reveal Prescott told Jones, a stranger, that she had to leave. He says she raised her hands and said, "You have kids. I don't want any trouble." She was leaving the trailer when
they fired several shots each at the suspect. The suspect was shot at least several times that we know of. She fell there and died at the scene.
6-year-old Cameron was hit twice. Deputies put Prescott in handcuffs before he could even help his son. When they finally let him go, he rushed to University Hospital. But it was too late. Cameron died alone.
2 doctors came in and told me that they did everything they could for him, but he passed on.
The weapon deputies say Jones had was never found. Instead, they later recovered a landscaping tool they believe Jones had in her hand before the shooting. For Prescott, things just don't add up.
I want to know why. Why did something like this have to happen?
He says he's filing the lawsuit for answers. He wants to make sure this never happens again. We reached out to the sheriff to find out what's changed since Cameron's death. He declined, but shared this statement with KENS 5. Quote, "While we cannot comment specifically on this case due to ongoing litigation, training hours have increased dramatically since December 2017. Mariah Medina, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.
All right, so you heard the story. Now, that was from 2017. Now, let's go to a follow-up that they posted in 2019. And this was March 13th of 2019. No charges for BCSO deputies in fatal shooting of a 6-year-old bystander. A Bexar County grand jury decided to not criminally charge the 4 BCSO deputies behind the shooting of a 6-year-old Cameron Prescott in December of 2017 shootout. The mobile home park shooting left Prescott and a 30-year-old Amanda Jones dead. Deputies said that they believed Jones was armed when the fatal shooting occurred on December 21st of 2017. Later, they discovered that she was not armed. Cameron Prescott was on his first day of Christmas break when he was pierced by a stray bullet in his torso while inside of his dad's mobile home. Deputies were pursuing Jones on the home's front porch, who was accused of stealing a vehicle and breaking into a mobile home earlier that day. The 4 deputies began firing their weapons, and the suspect was shot and killed on scene. BCSO sent a statement to KENS 5 that read, quote, After careful reviewing and considering the evidence, the grand jury concluded that criminal charges were not appropriate against the Bexar County Sheriff's deputies involved. This is the 2020 update that was posted just a day ago. Bexar County lawyers offer $100,000 to parents of a 6-year-old boy slain by deputies, an amount the family calls inadequate. The offer comes about 6 months after the family of Cameron Prescott filed a lawsuit in federal court, alleging that deputies were reckless and negligent when they fired more than 18 rounds at an unarmed suspect in front of a mobile home owned by the boy's father. The shooting at the mobile home park in December 21st, 2017 followed a chaotic hours-long search through northeastern Bexar County for Amanda Jones, a car thief suspect wanted on warrants for fraud and credit card abuse. Four deputies closed in on Jones as she stood on the porch. Deputies later said that they thought that Jones was holding an object they feared was a firearm, though investigators did not recover an object next to her body. They fired on Jones at least 18 times, killing her on the scene. Inside the mobile home was Cameron, a first grader who hours later had started his winter break from Wetterstein Elementary School. Multiple bullets pierced the thin shell of the mobile home. 2 of them struck Cameron. He was transported to the University Hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. While his father was still in police custody, arrested, young Cameron died alone. In a 16-page letter sent June 30th, lawyers representing the Prescott family called Bexar County officials to offer a more reasonable settlement and to reform the department's training policies. Quote, "If there were one thing that comes from this case, it would be that situations like this don't happen again. There shouldn't be no scenario where deputies use high-powered weapons in a mobile home community where residents are clearly inside." Crosley declined to say if the county had changed its offer since he wrote the letter. Quote, "They are interested in having discussions, but beyond that, it's been very non-specific." Earlier this year, lawyers for Bexar County District's Attorney's Office, who represent the county, filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. A judge has not yet ruled on that motion. On Thursday, the District Attorney's Office and Sheriff's Office declined to comment, citing ongoing litigation. Now, white people, this is what I'm looking for at this moment in time. I'm looking for those Blue Lives Matter. I'm looking for those thin blue line people. I'm looking for those people that always want to chant white lives matter and all lives matter, because you know the funniest thing whenever I see these stories, and quite often, honestly speaking, when I happen to peruse online, I see a lot of stories where your families are being killed, where your families are being torn apart, where people in your family are being taken away from you and your community. But the oddest thing that happens is that I never see any of these groups, the White Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, Thin Blue Line, I never see any of these groups show up and protest for any of these families. Why is it that you have literally 3 groups and I haven't seen or heard a peep from any of them speaking about what took place with this young boy who was shot and killed by cops? And then, oh, lo and behold, guess what happens? A grand jury decides that, hey, these cops didn't do anything wrong. They were only doing their job. Wow. And this is why I pose the question, do your lives really matter? Now, some people might say that, oh, well, that's racist. Why would you say that then? How would you feel if white people or anybody else were to say that about black people? But you're missing the point. This is a white story that has to do with white cops, that has to do with a white community, that has to do with a white family, that has to do with a young white man, a young white boy who got his life taken away by the same white cops who are paid to protect that same white community. Now, again, some people might come in, why does it have to be about race? Why can't it just be, cops doing something stupid and, getting something wrong. Because that's not the way that the world works. That's not. After, during and after the point of colonization, this is what has taken place. I'm only giving the information, how I'm giving it out is how I've always received the information, due to the fact of white people always write the books, white people always make the news, white people always make the narrative. So these are the narratives. This is the way that these stories were presented to me over time. So if you're getting offended by me saying white on white crime, or always mentioning black and white and black, then you might want to go back, create a time machine, Marty McFly, and you might want to go correct a lot of those media and those journalists who use that for their narratives whenever they wanted to explain a story. Don't get mad at me, because I'm only doing what I'm taught, right? So white people, you're teaching black people certain things, and we're learning these things. So you can't get mad when we decide to use those teachings, right? Be mad at yourselves or the people in your community. Matter of fact, be more mad about this story versus how I actually decide to talk. How about that one? Because the funniest thing is that looking at the story and knowing how this video is going to get very low views, because it's not one of those go-to stories that people, can really just like see and like eat up. This is something that's a little bit different. And then also knowing the fact that a lot of the same trolls who just so happen to be white and other, who come onto the platform whenever I do a black or a white story, or white or a black story, they'll never show up to these stories when it appears and when it shows 100% white on white crime, where you have other white individuals who are paid to be in your community to protect you, taking your life. But yet these are the same exact people that you support. But then you want to get mad at black people whenever we want to talk about what it is that's been happening to us for centuries by way of your people, either today, tomorrow, or the present, by the system that you created. So when we call it out, it's a problem. So I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm using my platform because obviously I have something going here. So I want to know, white people, why is it that the Blue Lives Matter crew, that the White Lives Matter crew, that the All Lives Matter crew, why is it that all of those individuals who are part of those groups are not starting a GoFundMe for this family, due to the fact that they ended up having to suffer the loss of a child by way of police incompetence? It's funny that I'm technically more offended and mad about this kid losing his life than a lot of the white trolls that always show up on this platform that says something there. But in general, that's black people, because innately we are caring individuals. I can't speak for everybody else. I can just only go off of what I normally see. So as I stated before, if you're white and you're going to have an issue with what it is that I'm saying, you better make sure that when you open your mouth and speak, and you decide to crack your fingers and start hitting those keyboards, or better yet, because 70% of the people roughly use a cell phone, open up your cell phone and go to the comments section, you better make sure you address this story first. You better make sure you address this loss of life that didn't need to be taken. You better make sure that you address the fact that the lawyers decided to try to give this family $100K to basically say, well, we're sorry, and that's the most that we can do for you. You better address the fact that the police did not fire and strip the badges away from any of those cops who fired 18 rounds at one person who did not have a weapon. Like I said, the same things that you see take place to black people day in and day out on video that we happen to show you it's going to continue to happen to you and yours. And it's going to get worse because you decide at a point in time that you don't want to speak up and speak out about the things that are going on. This technically, I almost want to say it started in your community first. And by proximity, we ended up having to realistically deal with it. But like I said before, because you didn't want to speak about the whole drug pandemic because you felt that it was just a black thing and, oh, let them deal with it. It's none of our business. This is why you got the opioid epidemic. Because you didn't want to speak out against the Tuskegee experiment and a lot of the other experiments that happened before. This is why your community were the first ones that were portrayed, right? Or had the narrative as being the HIV group in the 80s. And because you refuse to acknowledge and speak out against police brutality because you want to shelter and protect your own people because you're afraid of losing power because of white fragility, this is why you have young kids like this dying at the hands of your own people who get to go home and hug their kids at night, knowing the fact that they took one of yours from your community. But like I said, you allow it to happen because you don't protest, you don't speak, you don't march, you don't do nothing. And this is why it still continues to happen in your community, and it's going to continue to get worse because of how everything started and how you've allowed it to grow into a cancerous mass to the point where it can't be cured and it can't be cut off. It's just going to continue to grow and fester, and then it's going to kill the whole body. That's it. And it's because of the system that you decided to create. So now you got to deal with the beast you let loose. So since it went through and it terrorized all of the other villages and towns all around the world, it's nowhere left to go but home. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So when you talk about that race war that's supposed to happen, it ain't going to be black people jumping nothing off. It's going to be the government who ordered hundreds of millions of hollow-tipped bullets, and it's going to be the Second Amendment gun-toting patriotic white people in America. But anyways, that's enough of me talking. Let me know what you guys think about this video and everything that I've stated about the story and everything that I stated from my opinion in the comment section below. And as always, peace, love, and stay tuned for the next video.